Hello, welcome to Shamanism, Metaphysics, and Grace. I'm Lauren Hubele, and I am interviewing Jyoti Wind today on part 3 about death. Jyoti, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Lauren.
So, Jyoti, how about if you open up our space?
Thank you. Grandmothers and grandfathers of the East, we call to you. We ask for your presence, your insights. Grandmothers and grandfathers of the South, we call to you this day. We ask for your sense of direction. Place our feet on the right path. Grandmothers and grandfathers and healing spirits of the West, we call to you. We ask for your healing and the ability to receive. Grandmothers and grandfathers and wisdom keepers of the North, we call to you. Teach us your wisdom. Teach us how to see what we look upon. Grandfather Sky, keeper of the starry night, we ask for your protection in all things. Grandmother Earth, you, our mother, who sustains us, remind us of our own mercy and compassion. And to that wise being inside of us, that ancestor in our hearts, may that being also be present. So I have something I'd like to read. May my death be filled with beauty. May my spirit let go with gratitude to the body that housed me. May my love flow to those at my departure, friends and family who sustained my days as I learned and grew, and extend to those who greet me, waiting with open arms for my return. May my death be filled with beauty.
Jyoti, thank you. And that begs the first question. What is a death filled with beauty?
I think, we prepare for weddings, sometimes a year in advance, with the planned flowers and the dress and orchestrating how everything is hopefully going to go. And it's creating a ritual, it's creating a ceremony. And I think that if we approach death in that same way, that with consciousness, with intent, with focus, to shed and let go of the things that we don't need to focus on anymore, that our death can be peaceful, conscious, whatever word you want to fill in there.
That's all beautiful, Jyoti, and hardly anyone does that.
They might set up an appointment, down the road with an undertaker or a funeral home, or buy a grave site, or whatever their personal plan or custom is, maybe even with a priest or something, but not like you plan a wedding. Because in planning a wedding, there's a sense of ongoingness, that this is the birth of something new. And death is also in that sense. It's think about when you were born. You left wherever you were as a spirit and came here inhabiting a body and began a new life, but you departed from somewhere else. And death is like a departure from here, and a new cycle, a new stepping into wherever it is you're going, into the spirit world.
Yes, this reminds me of what we touched on in the first talk about what our beliefs are, about where we go and what that looks like. And then even in the second talk, you talked about creating your own reality of what death might be like for you.
Yes. Yes, and so it's giving it some attention, some consciousness. I mean, we live in a death phobic culture. There's a lot of people who fear death. I've had responses when I offer my psychopomp workshop, even to people who are working in the shamanic world. And doing shamanic work, sometimes they're a little put off by the subject of death or crossing that barrier, and going into non-ordinary reality from this ordinary reality, life as we know it in the day to day, and stepping into something else with the theme of death and dying and with being the light that other souls who are stuck might be attracted to and ask for help. And so we've been schooled from early childhood that, especially in this culture, that death is something to be feared, and so we haven't really embraced that death and dying practice.
Yeah, it's interesting because you use the word phobia and you also have spoken about your father who wouldn't talk about death. And I think what you're doing is inviting us to get curious first about how we feel about death and 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 where those thoughts and feelings are coming from.
And the beliefs that maybe were given to us, maybe in all good faith, um, because I feel like, people create beliefs that they feel will help them and help them stay out of danger or help them avoid certain situations that might be um, not exactly what they want to have experiences of. But I think, as we grow and we become more conscious in our lives, it behooves us to really examine those beliefs and to pull them out of ourselves kind of and put them on the table in front of us and just re-examine, well, where did this belief come from, and is it really mine, and do I really feel this way, or is this something that was given to me in all good faith or whatever, um, uh, and do I need to carry this, or do I need to be open to shifting my perspective and seeing it a different way?
Uh, I mean, as I listen to you, Jyoti, and I think about, gosh, if I started planning my death, how my children would respond, right? Or
Yes.
how my friends might respond. And then I think, well, then I'm being influenced by their beliefs and their fears about death. And this is really my experience. It's not theirs.
No, no, but it is theirs by reflex, in a sense.
Yeah,
They have to look at letting you go. They
sure.
have to look at life without mom or life without Lauren, and so that would bring up their own discomfort and their own maybe nervousness or fears about the whole process. And so um, that so they are involved, but you're absolutely right. It is your passage. And you can be called morbid for thinking about planning your death. But, we have, what is it called? Living wills,
Mm.
that we fill out at a certain point in our 60s or 70s or whatever. And we start looking at how we want to be treated, what we want to have as far as medical intervention and all of those very physical things, but do we also take into consideration, do we want people praying or chanting or meditating as we're getting ready to leave? And we can't know. We can't know the exact moment of our death. We might slip out and sleep, you
Right.
know. That seems to be the preferred way of wanting to die, if you, because we all know that's on the table. And so we can have an idea of what we want, or what we'd like to see happen. And I think just that thinking about it puts us in the mind frame of that preparation, how we can prepare, how we can bring to the table our own conscious awareness of where we'd like to be at in our consciousness when it's our time to go. And sometimes it's like sudden and we don't have a plan and we don't have anything ready, and that's fine too.
Yeah.
That's just part of the way life is and death is as well. We can have, the best laid plans of mice and men. Um, so I think that it's more about a certain way of thinking and a certain preparation that we begin to make in our own minds and our own consciousness, which includes facing our fears, facing the unknown, um, being open to new ideas, new belief systems, new customs. I mean, there's many different types of customs around death and dying. I know in India, at least it used to be, I don't know if it still is, but people wore white to celebrate the release of the soul from being trapped in a body on this plane. So it was considered a celebration, a release.
Mm.
There's other cultures that perform rituals on the person's body that are like seals, and they seal the spirit or attempt to seal the spirit into the body. And then there's other cultures where people are celebrating, there's a party, people come from miles around to just sit in the yard, just sit down the street for those who are in that transition, because it's considered so holy and so magical. And so as that soul that's dying and leaving the body is in that transition, has opened up a general portal as it makes its transition. And so all these people will come from villages and miles around to bask in that openness of that portal energy, to feel and sense and meditate, to feel what that feels like and to absorb those energies for themselves. So
Mhm.
it's considered, to be at the feet of a dying person is considered such a boon, such a gift of life, such a gift of spirit.
Beautiful, Jyoti. As you were describing that, I had the visual of how folks line up for a parade, right, on the right and left side of the street, and something passes through. And in many ways, that's what you're describing, this passing through.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Well,
everybody gets to hold the space in their own way.
yes, yes. So as you're mentioning these other models, what you're really doing is inviting folks to get curious about other ways of doing things. And that reminds me of, you brought up the weddings, and weddings aren't done like they've always been done. Today we have so many different versions of how vows are exchanged, and how we've let go of so many norms around that, and folks write their own wedding, right?
Yes, yes.
So maybe part of this is coming into that new time of really owning. So that's taking agency in their own death and writing their own passage plan.
Yeah, beautifully said. Yes. Yeah, a passage plan. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
let's
but
coin
they
that.
would that pardon?
Let's
That's
coin that.
sure. Sure. It's like we don't have control over it completely. You know, with a wedding, the pastor or officiant might not show up. It
Sure,
might be an outdoor wedding and a tornado is on the horizon. You know,
sure.
we can't, we don't have control. We think we have control, but we don't really have control over much of anything, just how we behave. So, in the preparation for death and dying, there's, I think, certain things that can arise as practices, as ideas and perceptions that we can do, that we have control over, because we have control over ourselves to more of an extent than we have control over anything else or anybody else. And so it's like looking at where you might have unfinished business, where you might have some things on your side to make up, or something that you need from another person, from another spirit, in a sense. Whether it's forgiveness, whether it's letting go. I mean, I find for myself as an aging person, we're all aging to some extent or another, and you know, that we can step into the view on aging in this culture right there. But moving on, I notice how my opinions and my reactions have softened. I mean, they're not completely gone. I'm a human being. I have my own stuff that I deal with. But I've softened, and I think the aging process softens us. You know, it softens our edges. We're not quite as quick to jump or get in there with both feet and try to make something happen. Um, Maybe in certain situations, like taking care of the earth, maybe. But in the personal realm, I think that we are called and given tools to let go of a lot of things that were so important to us in our early days, especially defending our positions and, you know, what have you. And so I think along with that, our sense of letting go involves our forgiving of ourselves and our forgiving of other people, of what we may think they have done to us and what we may feel we have done to them, or not shown up and, you know, in a moment in time or whatever. And so I think for self-forgiveness and forgiveness of others is a place, it's a good place to start
Yeah. Yeah.
in the letting go process. Yes, you're not going to die tomorrow, chances are, but here you are today. And what can you do today to be ready, to be more conscious and aware, and make more room in yourself from holding on to these things, make more room in yourself to be more spacious around the consideration of your leave taking.
Hmm. Hmm. Jyoti, this opens up so many thoughts, and I love that you're just tapping into many things folks don't think about on the day to day. When you talked about preparation and not, we can't control it. A thought that came to me was that just our taking the preparation, it's super powerful, right?
Yeah.
We're putting that intention out there and focusing the energy in that direction.
Even having the consideration of what might I need to do to get ready, to be ready when that door opens. What how can I become more clear? How can I become more open and empty for this new experience? How can I empty myself of all the things that maybe I've collected, or you know, attitudes, beliefs, grievances, offend, whatever the word would be, offensivenesses, where I've been offended or whatever. how do I work on those things so that I'm ready to leap through the door when it opens.
Beautiful. So beautifully put, Jyoti. I mean, again, the visual I got is how often aging folks start giving away things, right?
Yeah.
And we think very much on this tangible level. You have this face, you can have my table, but the real work is emptying ourselves. And when you said that question, how might I become more empty? I thought, what a beautiful reflection as we age for each birthday to revisit that theme and
Yeah.
just spend a little time around it. And there's our work for the next year right in front of us.
Yes. 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 Yeah. And that would be the birthday gift to yourself.
Exactly. I love this. And just as we're talking about this, and I have this sense our listeners are experiencing this as well, is it just demystifies and diffuses this whole anxiety around death. Once you start becoming a participant,
Yes.
changes it.
Yes. Because it's not something way over there that's dark and mystified and unknown, even though there are unknown qualities to it. Um, you know how sometimes when you're going to do something, you might have some uh, anxiety about it, some agita in your gut kind of thing, and 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 then you step into it and it's like nothing. It's like, oh, this is cool. This works. I can do this. What was I concerned about? So that pre-anxiety, I think if we work with that and if we're doing our own work personally, then we're ready. We're
Mm,
more ready to accept, in a way, stepping into the unknown.
you're prepared. Yeah,
As
beautifully.
prepared as we can be, you
Sure,
know?
sure. Jyoti, I think you had a visualization for us. That might be nice.
I do. And we'll see how it goes.
Yeah,
Okay.
as always.
Okay. So if you just take a nice deep breath and let go of the cares of the day and the moment, and just kind of be quiet with yourself for a moment. And maybe call to mind a person in your life, in your past, that you feel either you need to forgive that person from something they did to you or to your family, or where a person where you feel you need to ask their forgiveness. That maybe you slighted someone, maybe you did something, and it might have been in all innocence, but someone else took offense and there's been a rift in the relationship. And so just call that person to mind, whichever side of that forgiveness line that you're on. And just surround that person in light. Just see that person in their own lovingness, in their own light. And extend your light to them, either in forgiveness or asking for forgiveness from that person. You are freeing yourself from that situation. Whether the other person forgives you or accepts your um, energy of light, that's not up to you. You have made that move. You have made that gesture of letting go, of what you held on to, either the guilt or the hurt. And then come back to yourself. Just come back to the light in your own heart that burns brightly always, your own eternal flame. And then when you're ready, come back to your room, come back to your own consciousness, open your eyes when you're ready. And that's one way you can begin to clear the decks, to take care of your own business. And so that when you're ready to pass through that door, you're clear.
Nice. Thanks, Jyoti.
You're welcome.
Is there anything else you'd like to share today while we're together?
I don't think so.
Okay. I'd love to direct our listeners to learn more about Jyoti and her work by heading over to her website, which is what, Jyoti?
JyotiWindAstrology.com.
Beautiful. And I want to thank you all for continuing on this journey with us and exploring this particular topic on death. Thanks, Jyoti.
Thank you, Lauren.